TOA community, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel, traintheolderadult.com with Robert Linkul. Wednesdays with Robert. I hope you're all doing great. This is episode 14. We're here to talk about kyphotic curves in older populations. Should they be lifting heavy weights? Should they be doing corrective? Should they be doing physical therapy? Should they not be doing anything at all? Should they be in the pool, etc.? So we're going to dive into all that. Plus, I've got a whole bunch. The last one that we did of this, where I did some social media reviews, were really popular. People really seem to like that. So every week, I kind of take a couple of video clips and a few things that I like to highlight. So I'm going to start putting those in towards the end. Hopefully, everybody will enjoy that. And we can have some discussions on some of these as well. Thank you for all the support in the last video. Was, to be honest, totally honest, a little nervous about I'm not a fan of picking on other people or other professionals. I don't like having anything like that done in my direction. And if it is, I like to have a dialogue with someone. And so I really didn't want anybody to feel like that, but I thought this was a strong enough point to like really have that discussion out loud, and everybody really seemed to be very supportive of it. I think I did it in a pretty professional way, but still made my point. So thank you. All right, team. Quick reminder, we are counting down the days here. November 4th, we have 30 spots available. We just locked in a brand new sponsor with Muscle Butter. All 30 attendees that are coming, you're going to get a full container of Muscle Butter. Not just like a little sample of it, a full container of Muscle Butter. It's like a $55 value of Muscle Butter. You're going to get a pair of Angle 90 handles, the first 10 that register for that. T-shirt, we're coming up on our deadline for that as well, October 10th. If you haven't registered, and get your custom size t-shirt. If not, you're leaving it up to whatever extra sizes we have left over. Breakfast, lunch, catered food, all the rest, all the other grab bag goodies, all kinds of good stuff. So it's going to be awesome. If you can join us online or in person, we would love to see you here in Folsom, California, Saturday, November 4th. It's going to be a great event, so come check us out. Okay, let's dive into this. The kyphotic curve. So this article, recent, this was May 2023, written by Natasha on here, talks about kyphosis exercises to treat the rounded upper back. Now, we're going to dive into, like, there's multiple different rounds of the back, but generally speaking, we are talking about something that looks like this. There's a normal lordotic curve, the one on the left, the lighter blue. The darker blue shows you a little bit more of a kyphosis, or that forward head curved hump, you know, as they called it here, the hump in the neck, right, that starts to kind of occur and develop. Now, some people are, I'll say, predispositioned with some type of scoliosis or something along those lines that will encourage that, but that's few and far between. The majority of folks are simply losing the battle to gravity, right? As we're aging, we're not staying strong enough. We're not keeping our bones and our muscles dense enough and strong enough to hold our head up. And then we have a world of computers and cell phones and everything else. Speaking of cell phones, let me make sure my ringer's off. Everything else that we do that's bringing our head down and forward and in front of us. The whole world is occurring forward and in front of us. And if you're a taller individual, it's forward and down a little bit as you're kind of looking down to engage with all the other people. That's why you see a lot, especially young women, 13 to 18, going through puberty. They're going through their growth spurts. A lot of times they're older, they're taller than some of their peers. And so they will round and like make themselves smaller just so they can fit in. And you can just see this terrible posture going on with their shoulders, their neck. That will affect them the rest of their lives. So this is something that we really want to address from a young age, you know, all the way going on. Be proud of your posture, stand up tall. And we're not talking about, you know, like peacocking the chest and over having to strut. Literally just mean lift your sternum up, let yourself be tall enough to where your shoulder blades just slide back a little bit, and then pull your chin in to keep you in a good neutral spine position. This is a very typical, very common position for me. I got some flyaways here. Very common position for me because I'm stiff as shit after all these years of back surgeries. I'm kind of stuck in this position. I'm kidding, but I really have to emphasize proper posture or else my back hurts. So I am continually putting myself into a proper position to make sure my back doesn't bother me. It's not the other way around. My back is plenty mobile. I can get up and down off the ground. I can move. I can do windmills. I can do these things. At the courses I teach, I show you, I can do these mobilities. However, I hold myself into these tighter, more postural positions to make sure I don't hurt my back, okay? So it's a constant top of mind, TOMA, top of mind awareness kind of component where that's an Alan Cosgrove line, by the way. I think he got it from somebody else, but I learned it from him. Where we see, between 20 and 40% of older adults are going to have some kind of kyphotic curve like that. And then it gets even worse, for women between the ages of 50 and 70, as they talk about there. Takeaways: making small changes to care of your posture today to prevent kyphosis. This is a repetitive world, and we're talking about the phones, good practices in posture. There are different devices you can get that will pull your shoulders and pull your chin or help you sleep at night and keep you from rounding and tucking. So if you get to a point where you're like, man, I really have to take some desperate measures here, there are some things out there that you can look at. However, I think in many cases, simply adding resistance training into your world, and in that resistance training routine, having like 50 to not 60% of the movements that you do focus on the upper back side of your body to really encourage that rowing posterior chain strength development that's going to hold your shoulders in position, hold your head in position, instead of doing chest and abs and biceps that pull everything forward, but they also look good when those are all developed. That's why we call them the C muscles. I can see them, okay? But they also pull you into a C if you overdevelop them, right? So we don't want to be in that position. We want to be in that good postured position. When you see someone walking, you go, that person has good posture. What are we talking about? Their shoulders are neutral, their chest is up, their head's up tall, and they can take good long strides, and they don't look like they're going to fall over. They don't look frail or fragile. So that's what we want. Now, does that mean that, hey, I'm an older person, this is just the way that it's going to be? Absolutely not. There are many, many examples of folks out there 60, 70, 80 years old that are just as tall as they were when they were 18 or 20 as they are at their later ages. It's because they've resistance trained their entire life. Now you get other people who were 6 foot at one point and they're 5'7" now. You're like, what happened? Why are you so compacted? And why is that happening? It's because gravity is going to constantly weigh on us. And if we don't resistance train and keep our bones and bodies strong, we're going to lose this battle to gravity, okay? All right, so you have a postural kyphosis, typically caused by consistent poor posture from weak bones and fractures. Now, the weak bones are what's going to lead to the fractures unless you have a catastrophic fall, an injury, something like that. But the key component to this is the weak posture, okay? And that's from weak bones. So what makes your bones strong? Holding load. Now, when you're holding that load and you're moving it around, what is the muscle doing to the bone? It's pulling on the origin and the insertion of the bone so it can manipulate and move that load. So not only are you increasing bone density by holding the load against it, right? But you're also acting on the origin and the insertion of each bone. And it's actually trying to like pull or bend or break it, right? While the muscle is working through this range of motion, it's causing an increase in density on either end of the bone, and then the tension of the load is causing it all the way through. So literally when you resistance train, you are increasing your tearing in a good way, tearing muscle fibers to improve muscle density. But the harder the muscles pull on the bone, the greater the bone density. That's why sarcopenia and osteopenia are almost always hand in hand. If you have one, you have the other. It's extremely rare to find someone who doesn't have muscle loss to a point where they've lost function and their bones aren't soft, right? And it's very hard to find someone who has soft bones but enough bone development or muscle development. Like those two things, they're so hand in hand, right? And very rare occasion you might find a younger person who's adequately muscled but has softening of their bones. They're gonna be sarcopenic soon if they don't do something, right? So keep that in mind. If most are postural, okay, we have there. Then you have congenital, right? Which basically means that it's developed in through your DNA. And that can be, adjusted with some surgeries. Again, that can be early forms of scoliosis or MS or some other diseases as well that could, lead into that. So always kind of keep an open mind when you're looking at this, especially as a young age. Nutrition and metabolic kyphosis, conditions that affect the bone formation and density can contribute to a metabolic kyphosis. So basically, if there are certain nutritional components you're not getting into your body, that can soften the bones, right? And encourage your forward tilt kyphotic curve. And then the Schurman's kyphosis, sorry on that one, when Schurman doubles, The kind of spinal disc herniation as seen alongside kyphosis is known as the Schirmer's kyphosis. This is a displacement of the discs where they all start to domino in one direction, and that starts to fold you forward. So seeing some pictures of that, pretty catastrophic. Again, I can't pronounce the name. I'm guessing, if I'm giving it my best shot, it's Schirmer's? Anyhow, give you a good idea. Reading is not my best component. All right. So causes and treatment: degenerative change, compression fractures, muscle weakness, and biomechanics, movement patterns. Again, all these things we've kind of talked about how they're having issues here. Even these shorter durations, these short little 10 minutes on my phone, I'm forward, but I do that 20, 30 times a day. All of that adds up, and it's slowly just folding us forward and forward to the point where you're going to start feeling, man, my neck is just sore all the time. And then when you do stand up with good posture, it actually hurts because you're in a healthier position. You're becoming so accustomed to being curved that when you do stand up straight, it hurts. It's hard. And that's where a lot of people that come, especially will come in here to start a resistance program, I'm cueing and coaching and encouraging them to get into these better positions. And they go, man, this is really difficult. My back and my shoulder blades, my muscles all back there, they just ache all the time. It's because your musculature is so used to being, okay? So when you were born, assuming everything is well, your muscles are all, let's call it neutral, and it's supposed to hold me in this position, right? But over the years, I've rounded. And so what happened to all those muscles in my upper back, in my neck? They've all stretched, they've elongated further than because they're supposed to be here, but I've allowed them to stretch to this position. So now when I go, wait a minute, we got to fix this. Let's row all these muscles and let's try to hold ourselves here. The body's like, I'm used to this forward position. I don't like this position. All these muscles that were really long and stretched out, they all have to shorten down now and try to hold me more upright. So those muscles are like, dude, I can't do this all day long. Why is this so difficult? And it just relaxes and goes right back into that crap posture. And it's because we've allowed ourselves to kind of mold into that, right? We've got to re-mush the putty of all this musculature and bone. It's going to take time. It's going to take years, maybe even, to row and build strength and slowly start to correct you and get you back into that posture. But it's a constant top of mind awareness. You need to think about this all the time. And you are going to have aches and pains, okay? Now, this is just like the arthritic grace period, the exercise grace period. This is a grace period where if you change something drastic in your body's going to have a response. So that's what I'm talking about. Oh, my shoulders ache, my shoulder blades hurt, my neck hurts. All of these things are going to ache you for probably a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. But then you're going to get over the hump, okay? Your body's going to go, hey, I'm actually getting used to all these muscles being on and holding me in this position. This posture is now the new normal. I better just get used to it. It will adapt. That is what these grace periods are for. Your body will adapt to this new demand being placed on it. And instead of the muscle getting to relax in this rounded, stretched position where the frame of your stacked bones are just going, well, since none of the muscles are on or active, I'm just going to stack up my bones and hold here. And then gravity's just like, I'm just going to keep pulling on you until we break you in half. Or your muscles go, you know what? I am designed, especially the posterior chain, to be endured enough to slightly activate enough to hold me upright all day long. Your muscles are designed to do that, especially the posterior chain, your hamstrings, your glutes, your erectors, your lats, your rhomboids, your neck, your levator scapulae, your traps. All these posterior chain muscles are all designed with long endurance. They are designed to be on at a 10% effort all day long. And when you need a high effort, they can do that, but they're designed to just be on a little bit all day and hold you in that upright position. You just have to practice it, okay? That's why I'm saying this is a true TOMA, top of mind awareness. You have to think about this all the time to try to improve it. Is it correctable? 100%. For the most part, most people, unless it's a congenital issue, something like that, right? Most people, this is correctable if you catch it early on. So now the question comes up to this, okay? This was a meta-analysis. The next one they did is included in this meta-analysis. Basically, they're looking at people that have these kyphotic curves that are over the age of, I think, 55, 65 in the other one. What is the best thing for them to do? Should they do physical therapy? Should they do corrective exercises only? Should they do regular resistance training? Should they do aquatics and pool work and not do any resistance training? So they went through and they did all of these studies, and they've done them for years, okay? And the meta-analysis goes through and it looks at all of those and gives you like one kind of final answer or one primary suggestion. And their suggestion in this is this systematic review suggests that strengthening rather than stretching could be more relevant for kyphosis in both qualities are, even though both qualities are important for lordosis. It is necessary to conduct more randomized controlled trials, etc. Obviously, we need more research on this as we go. And then different changes of angles and postural positions for sagittal-based movements, a sagittal-based world, sagittals forward and back in front of us, okay? So if strengthening rather than stretching is basically a little more relevant, both are valuable, but the strengthening is more important, that's what we're talking about, is that whole posterior chain. 60% of the work you should be doing is on rowing, backside of the body, hinging, backside of the body, glute training, hamstrings, backside of the body, all that effort. If you take your programming that you do every week and you cut it in half from front body to back body, 6 of those exercises, every workout should be on the back to only 4 on the front. 60% posterior chain, okay? That's how you're going to be able to fix this. And that's what the research supports to be the most efficient way to do so. Now, with older populations, it comes down to, well, let me jump into that just yet, okay? Not just yet. Here's another one, okay? And again, this one was utilized in that meta-analysis, but this one here looked at, it did, right? Wasn't that the other one 23? Oh, that was 19. Okay, so that did not include this one, All right, the effects of exercise on cervical muscle strength and cross-sectional area in patients with thoracic hyperkyphosis and chronic cervical pain. So that means they're really overly forward flexed. And the findings on this one were that a corrective exercise program is most effective over a traditional resistance exercise and physical therapy for improving the thoracic Cobb angle. There was a whole breakdown in this article about what the Cobb angle was, and I'm assuming, well, it showed these side angles from the head position. I'm assuming there's a certain parameter or range that's like less painful, more acceptable. I didn't get too deep into it. But with this one, they talked about specific corrective exercises to be able to help retract the chin, and they had Supermans and mirrors and chin tucks and all kinds of other ones that would assist with that, okay? So you have one that says you should definitely do resistance training, another one that says corrective exercises. Now, the majority of corrective exercises that you can look at for thoracic improvement are going to include some kind of resistance. Remember, resistance training doesn't always mean heavy weights. It just means resistance. This could be bands, cables, pulleys, chains, accommodating resistance, etc. You need something to engage against, something that's going to be more than just your body weight. So a lot of the corrective exercises will incorporate bands, different tensions, cable pulleys, different angles, face pulls, no monies, right? Bow and arrows, a lot of these to assist in developing that posterior chain, but pulling into the proper positions. So I think there's some pretty good information to come from both of these, that big meta-analysis in 2019, and in this article, 2021, and there was another one, I don't want to get into John just yet. There's another one that kind of looks at the I think it was like 2023 that was taken a little bit deep. Or no, that one's coming up. Never mind. No, jump the shark. So when we look at load, the question comes about, and I was just talking with one of our affiliates about this the other day. The question comes about, if older individuals have this kyphotic curve, the forward position in their head, where do you look at that person and say, let's only do correctives and some band work, etc., and try to fix their kyphosis and try to get them to vertical? And where do you look at them and go, they're so far gone into this that if I don't resistance train them, then their bone density and their muscle mass is just going to continue to get worse. But they can't lift in the proper positions that all of us will want to hold them to. We want them to have that straight back and that good shoulder retraction when they're rowing or deadlifting or doing this. But these individuals are not capable of doing that. So if their entire life, their whole world on a daily basis, regularly, they are stuck and frozen right here. No matter what, you couldn't lay them on the floor, stand on their shoulders and snap them back into position. They are stuck here, okay? And they're 75 years old. Do you tell that person, well, let's just do no monies and face pulls and let's see if we can't correctively fix you for the next 2 years, and until we can get you back to this good proper posture, well, then we can start resistance training? Do you see how, number one, how detrimental that's going to be to them? And number two, it's not going to work, okay? It isn't. It's not going to work. There are individuals that are slightly kyphotic at 75 that you could start to do corrective exercises with. But what's going to help them the most is the resistance too, right? That's a 50-50, if not a little bit more. In this one particular one, they said the correctives were most for like reducing the pain that was involved in it, I think. And we go back to that one, okay? But in terms of fixing the posture, right, and improving that person's quality of life, if they're slightly kyphotic, resistance must be included via the meta-analysis. Majority of those articles showed resistance training was a must to help improve quality of life, posture, everything else that kind of went with getting them into a more vertical or straighter position. So if we know that that's not possible with individuals that are so far forward, we can't, unless they live to be 130 and they start to increase in bone density at 75, which is extremely rare, okay? Unless I'm pumping them full of whatever they're giving some Major League Baseball players out there that'll, remain nameless. But unless those individuals, that we're saving and hitting new world records and, home runs and this and that, unless they're taking some cream and some clear and we're pumping them full of testosterone and whatever else, unless we do something like that, these individuals, they are too far gone with this lordotic curve. It's so hyper curved that we cannot fix them. What do? You lift them. You lift them no matter what. You lift them, okay? We have individuals that have scoliosis. It's so bad. They are not fixable unless they have some kind of massive surgery, which they're not willing to do. Their life is lifting with their back that way. So do we just say, I don't care about your bone density anymore. I don't care about your muscle mass anymore. I don't care about your cardiovascular endurance, your cognitive, your balance, your coordination, your agility, your mobility. Do we just scrap all of that and go, well, until you can fix your shoulder position, I can't train anything else? Do you see how that is definitely not the answer to this, okay? You lift those people to the best of their current ability and you get them as strong, as bone dense, and as muscularly engaged as possible. You increase their gait to reduce their fall risk. You improve their lower body strength where they can get up and down from any chair, any toilet, any height that's 4 inches below parallel, up. You improve that person's strength and ability to whatever world challenges come to them. And that world challenge does not include pulling their shoulders back and keeping their chest up into a vertical position. It just doesn't include that anymore. And even though we look at it, right? And I've done this in the past where I post a video of a client who doesn't have a perfect back posture and people just tear me apart. Why are you deadlifting her like that? She's going to get hurt. You guys have no idea where she came from. This is a 200% improvement from where she started. But are we going to fix her when she's got a 90-degree cut angle, 2 45-degree cut angles in her spine from the scoliosis that she's got? Are we going to fix that? No, I can't correctively improve that. If she has a forward neck kyphotic curve of 30 or 45 degrees, am I going to fix that? No, it's not possible. So you do the best you can with the person in front of you. What is the best bang for their buck? What's the best thing that I could possibly do for this person right now? I got to lift them. They need the bone density. They need the muscular strength. They have spent their whole life, or a very long chunk of it, in that forward flex position. Picking up 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds a couple of times with you is not going to change that. You're not going to snap their neck all of a sudden into a worse position. Gravity has already done that over the last half a century. You asking them to pick up an 8-kilo kettlebell isn't going to do anything except for starting to tighten up their bones and their muscles and improve their quality of life in every other way other than fixing their kyphotic curve. And it's not going to make them worse unless you're putting bars on the back of their neck and folding them forward into a good morning even more, which I know you're not going to do that, okay? All right, so I hope this helps. I hope you enjoyed this section anyhow. I want to get into some other stuff. I want to show a couple videos, and I want to talk about my buddy Jonathan Mike. So I need to jump over here. I need to open this so I can find it. I need to open this one so I can find it, and I need to open this one so I can find it. Okay, these are super, super cool videos that I found, and I wanted to share these with everybody. So the first one was talking with one of my affiliates the other day, and she told me, she goes, hey, I am a new member of a walking soccer league. And I said, say that one more time. She's a member of a walking soccer league. Check this out. All right, so you kind of get the point here that they are basically, she's going to kick this ball right into this guy's junk right there. That's great. He played it off like it, but I'm pretty sure I tagged him. Anyhow, I think this is super cool. I didn't even know this was a thing. Basically, we looked at like, okay, pickleball is for people that maybe, obviously you could always just join and go play pickleball, but it's basically a version of tennis that's just a little bit smaller and it's a little slower. So if you like tennis and you enjoy playing tennis and you want to keep playing tennis, but it's just getting a little bit too big and long of a court and too fast of a game for you, pickleball is a slower version of that. And it's super fun, right? So this is basically a version of that where the field is cut in half, okay? You cannot run. Those are part of the rules. You can't have both feet off the ground at the same time. You have to have one foot down at all times. There's no slide tackling, obviously, but the goalies still get to use their hands. They're still passing, kicking, driving. They are walking forward and backwards. And my client, my affiliate, is going to encouraged to work with more people that are doing this because the leagues are like taking off. They're really, they're really getting big. So part of this, she was noticing like how much time she spends walking backwards and how like, hey, this is really good for people, especially older pops here, that are going to be able to continue to work in multiple different directions, but get a cardiovascular component. They talked about how social it is and how much they can engage with each other too while they do this. It's just a fun event. If you were a soccer player and you enjoyed it, but as you got older, you're like, my knees won't allow it, my, this or that, you've got a great opportunity here to do that. So I thought that was really cool. I wanted to share that, make sure that people are aware of it because I definitely wasn't. I didn't know what that was all about. Another one that I saw was, let's see, Starting Strength in Cincinnati. There it is, Starting Strength Cincinnati. These folks have a very cool older adult strength training program, and one individual here going through breast cancer. I wanted to show you this one. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. I just love seeing the box squats. That's basically a sit to stand, but she's backloaded, so she's got enough flexibility, mobility to get her arms behind her back. That's awesome. Rows and different angles of pulls. There were some carries. Like it's just utilizing resistance training has improved this lady's quality of life to the point where she was full blown osteoporosis based, and now she's classified in the osteopenia class, which is a reduction, is a improvement in bone density. It's a reduction in the diagnosis, but it means that her bones are getting more dense. She's moving in the right direction. Now, battling cancer, Crohn's disease, all these other things, her body, plus going through radiation and treatment 3 times, she lost her hair 3 times, all of that, her body has gone through so much and was still able to battle through and find ways to improve and at least maintain bone density, if not lose it, right? And increase her bone density, her muscle mass, etc., and keep this high quality of life. I thought that was a great video. I wanted to share that one too. Inspiring stories. I love highlighting, showcasing this. And then this one, I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they said in this video that this lady is 94 years old, okay? And there's no audio that's of matter here. So coach comes over, moves her box. You can see the walker behind her. This is I believe it's a 7.5 pound training bar with 2.5s on there. So she's lifting 12.5 pounds. And that's what I think anyhow. And she's sliding the bar up the rack. So they've created kind of a Smith machine version. Now this 97-year-old lady with her lifting belt on that's loose, I thought that was cute too, is pressing overhead, 12 pounds to maybe 15 pounds. Who knows what that bar is? That's what it looks like as a training bar to me. Let's say that's a 45-pound bar, which I don't think it is. That would have been 50 or 55 pounds that she's overhead pressing. I'm guessing she weighs about 90 to 100. So I don't think she's overhead pressing at 94, half her body weight. I'm pretty sure that's a 10-pound if not a 7.5 pound training bar. But the fact that she can get her arms to vertical over her head, and look at all the other people in the room. I love that they all have weight belts on. I think that just cracks me up. And you can tell this gym, they really focus on the overhead press. A lot of facilities do this. It's like one of their staple movements. It's like your body's got to get so much vertical, pressure through it if you can lock this bar over your head, but you're maintaining full body engagement and a vertical reach. So overhead pressing is awesome. A lot of the people that I get, they can't get their arms over 90 degrees. So it's like when we get to the point where they can overhead press, we can only do so much, but we do maintain that ability. These guys hey man, we pride ourselves in the fact that we can get overhead. I love it that they're doing this, and a cool strategy and a way to implement it by sliding the bar along, creating that Smith machine. That's basically a barbell version of the pivot point, which means as she's pressing, she can lean against that bar and use the leverage of the rack supporting the bar. She doesn't have to stabilize it and hold it herself. I'm wondering if the weight is just heavier that she can't stabilize it on her own, or if there's a component to that she needs the support from it, okay? All right, and then the last little wrap up here. I know we've been going about 30 minutes, but last little wrap up on this. My really good friend, Dr. Jonathan Mike. I love this guy, such a great dude. When I started to see his social media take off, John and I have been buddies since 2012, I think, somewhere around in there. I brought him out to speak at one of our events in 2013, 2014. He always does a great job. But I think he had like 12,000 people on his Instagram. He's knocking on the door at 50,000. He puts up great content, so I wanted to highlight him. He's a really good buddy of mine. He and I become close friends over we've always been really good acquaintances, but much closer in the last couple of years. He's such a great dude, and I just want to give him some shout outs. He makes really great content. I did a whole video on this post of his, by the way, power training for older adults and how useful it is. And they did a whole meta-analysis on that and found that, yes, people moving even lighter loads at faster rates can improve their power, or even up to the point of released lifts where they get to let go of things. But even with some heavier loads, trying to move them in some more dynamic, explosive patterns. He talks about eccentrics training all the time. Was the individual that introduced eccentric training and heavily focused programs on eccentric training into my world. So I wanted to showcase some of his work. Two of the lifts that he really like this video here. Check this one out. So he is doing a snatch grip deadlift and kind of points out that because the hands are so wide, is it more beneficial? Are you getting as much trap, as much lat as you think you're getting? Well, if you could do basically a sumo or a traditional stance, but a snatch wide grip, if you were to kind of reverse that, if you were to bring your feet out a tiny bit and bring your hands to the inside, not a traditional over and under kind of grip, but you can still see here when he goes to this grip, he's a little wider than normal, right? But he's still getting great retraction in those shoulder blades. The posture position is better. My point is, in my discussion in this is, in many cases, we have clients that they would pick up 75 pounds with a hex bar and their back would just feel touchy and aggravated. And then I'd give them a 90-pound kettlebell that they would pick up between their knees and they wouldn't feel anything at all. And so depending on posture and analysis of how an individual moves, in many cases, they just pull better from weights being between their knees than weight being outside their knees. And I am no different. I can't do anything with weights outside my knees. I can't hold a barbell out there. I can't do hex bar work. I can't do any of that. I am not flexible enough to get down deep enough to put myself in the proper positions. But if I bring the weight, if not heavier than that weight, to the inside of my knees where I can do a more, sumo style or wider squat stance, and I can get lower and get myself into the right positions, so much more comfortable there. And my shoulders, my engagement, I can pull back from that more inside grip. Now, the negative to that is when you're holding in between your knees, your hands are together or they're being forced together. So there is a tendency to roll or collapse in. But again, that's where the cueing and the retracting and the pulling back that John does such a good job in that video showcasing. If your hands are outside and you're not flexible enough, it's going to pull you forward. It's going to round your back. Something is going to give. So keep that in mind when you're doing your lifts. Now, just the opposite of that, okay, is in this case, if you are doing a lift like a Romanian deadlift and your hands are along your thighs or inside your thighs, same thing. It's going to probably pull you apart round you over a little bit, tip you forward, where if you do pull the weights to the side now, right, and you hold them along the outside, retract the shoulder blades. But the difference here is it's not a fixed implement and it's not forward in front of you. You can move them out to the sides, if not hold them even slightly behind you, right? Like when I'll do RDLs, I'll hold the weights along my semitendinosus, my biceps femoris, along the outside of my hamstrings, where I'm almost gliding my pinkies up and down my hamstrings rather than like my TFL or my my quads on the side. So that recruitment, that encouragement of pulling the mechanics back, the posture and the positions are very much so dictated by where you manipulate and hold the load. And for every lift and every individual, these might be different. So if we are both designed to do deadlifts today, I am going to do so much better by pulling from inside my knees and more of a non-traditional or a sumo style wide stance squat, where you may do better from a hex bar or a traditional barbell with a pronated grip. Just depends on the individuals. That's the beauty of coaching. That's what we do. Jonathan, Mike, Dr. John, I love your page. Everybody out there, if you're liking what you saw right there, the guy is all research-based. Everything's got some explanation. He always answers why. Check him out. He's a great dude, a good friend, and he puts up some fantastic content. I think you'll really enjoy it. That's it for me, everybody. 36 minutes. I had a lot to say today. I hope you don't mind. Much love and appreciation to all of you. I hope you have a great day. Please subscribe, please follow, please share this with anybody you feel would learn or benefit from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good things from it. Comments, questions, hit me up down below. If not, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.